Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, distress over police brutality at home and outrage over the killing of George Floyd by police in the United States spark a wave of protests in Africa. Demonstrations are held in Kenya, Ghana and South Africa. We take a closer look. Also, fans of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo anticipate his return ahead of October elections. After having been acquitted of crimes against humanity charges at the International Criminal Court last year, he's recently been cleared to leave Belgium. His next steps remain unclear. And campaigners go door-to-door in rural Ethiopia in a bid to tackle misinformation and raise awareness of how communities can reduce the risks of spreading coronavirus. But first, protests against police brutality and in solidarity with worldwide demonstrations calling for justice for George Floyd have been held across Africa. Rallies have been held in Kenya, Ghana and South Africa denouncing the police killing of an unarmed black man in the United States and voicing African communities' frustrations with heavy-handed and sometimes fatal police enforcement. Nicolas Chemin has the story.
They knelt on the ground in silence, just like protesters in the US. These members of the Economic Freedom Fighters Opposition Party staged a protest on Monday outside the US Embassy in Pretoria. They came to denounce racism and police brutality in the US and in South Africa. Apartheid ended 26 years ago, but white South Africans, who make up just 8% of the population, still control most of the economy.
Black lives matter, and it doesn't mean other lives do not matter. There is only one house burning, and we'll all pay attention to that house. It doesn't mean other houses are not important. They too are important, but this house is the one that is burning.
In Kenya, protesters drew parallels between police brutality in the US and in the East African nation. Kenyan police have been involved in the killing of at least 15 people since authorities imposed a nighttime curfew in March to fight the coronavirus.
We are sick and tired of the police brutality. We want justice for everyone, regardless whether in Kenya, all over the world, LGBT, anybody, Black Lives Matter. We just want justice. There's no need of violence. Nobody needs to be killed. Nobody needs to be beaten.
There was also an anti-racism vigil in Ghana this weekend, attended by Ghanaians and Americans.
There's stuff going on in my country, in America, that I'm standing up for here in Ghana tonight with you all, because you all are with us and we are with you. We are all Black people. We are all African people, and we're just demanding respect, unity, justice, equality, equity, everything. We are done being quiet.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
The killing of George Floyd has sparked protests in many different African countries, but so far most of them have yet to draw huge crowds.
Look now at some news in brief. South African children have started heading back to primary and secondary schools after they were shut as part of the coronavirus fight back. The reopening had been pushed back from last week after teachers voiced concern that not enough hygiene measures were in place to keep staff and pupils safe. With over 50,000 cases and almost 1,000 deaths, South Africa is the country to have logged the most official cases of COVID-19 on the continent. Tanzania's president claimed that the country's beating coronavirus because of prayer. The World Health Organization has expressed its concern about the country's strategy on COVID-19, as President John Magufuli's been downplaying the risks of the pandemic and stopped releasing official data on cases in the country at the end of April. Critics have accused the government of lacking transparency in its coronavirus strategy. The Speaker of Ethiopia's upper house of parliament has quit. Keria Ibrahim's accused Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of manoeuvring to try and stay in power unconstitutionally. The country's postponed August elections because of the pressures caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Abiy's mandate ends in October, though, but he's rejected the idea of forming a transitional government. He said that the election delay could last a few months. The country's election board has warned it would need at least 10 months to prepare. The corruption trial of the former president of the International Association of Athletics Federation began in Paris on Monday. Senegalese Lamine Diack is accused of having accepted millions from Russian athletes in order to turn a blind eye to suspected doping cases. Diack became one of the most influential men in Olympic sport during his 16 years of running the IAAF. His legacy, though, took a beating after he stepped down in 2015. On Monday, the IAAF former anti-doping chief told the court that Diack urged him to bend the rules on Russian doping cases. French marathon runner Christelle Donnet is a civil party in the case against Diack. She says that the cover-up at the IAAF cost her a medal and protected Russian runner Lilia Shubakova.
The heads of the IAAF are there to show an example and to sanction those who were tested positive for doping. And here they hid these tests, especially the biological passports. And so Lilia Shubakova could keep running for years, for some time after she was tested positive. And that disrupted our careers, because there were financial implications with regard to bonuses related to performance results. A podium finish is a podium finish, and we didn't win the prize money.
Il y a des enjeux financiers aussi bien sur les primes de résultats. Une place est une place et nous, on ne récupère pas le prize money.
Fans of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo are anticipating his return home after the ICC last month cleared him to leave Belgium under certain circumstances. Last year, he was acquitted over charges of orchestrating post-electoral violence in which 30,000 were killed in Ivory Coast between 2010 and 2011. Even though Gbagbo's next moves are still uncertain, many of his die-hard supporters are already in action with an eye on October's presidential vote. Our team sent us this report.
A rapturous reception. After the loosening of the terms of Laurent Gbagbo's conditional release by the ICC, the FPI is raring to go. The former president has a message to pass on.
Il vous remercie pour le combat que vous aviez mené. Il vous remercie pour votre résistance. Et il vous dit qu'il sera ici très bientôt.
As his supporters anticipate a hypothetical return of their hero, time is pressing on. His party is divided. On one side, the official FPI, recognised by the authorities. On the other, the Gbagbo or Nothing group, gathered here. They have boycotted every election since 2011, but now the strategy has changed. They hope to make waves at the upcoming presidential election.
C'est que nous voulons que nos partisans, c'est-à-dire nos militants, nos sympathisants, participent massivement aux élections prochaines. Et comme ça fait des années que nous ne sommes pas sur les listes de recensement, il fallait faire cette campagne.
Negotiations with the official FPI branch are at a standstill, but Gbagbo's newfound liberty changes everything.
Son retour va contribuer à l'apaisement au sein du parti, va contribuer, disons, au dénouement de la crise, parce qu'il n'aura plus de raison de s'affronter, étant donné que le président Gbagbo est libre et qu'il peut participer au débat interne.
Even if Gbagbo has not yet spoken publicly on the subject, many think that he still holds presidential ambitions.
Le président Laurent Gbagbo libéré va vouloir être candidat. C'est pourquoi aucun cadre n'a osé lever la tête. Donc avec sa candidature, vous imaginez un peu les incidences sur la scène politique ivoirienne.
In 2018, Ivory Coast condemned Gbagbo to 20 years in prison in absentia for stealing money from the Central Bank of West African states. His return to the country has yet to be negotiated with the authorities. There is little chance that his candidacy would be approved, but just his presence in the country could influence the election.
About 80% of Ethiopia's population live in rural communities where it can be difficult to tackle the spread of coronavirus. Access can be tough, sanitary equipment in short supply, and misinformation rife. Campaigners are going door to door to try and raise awareness. Our team reports.
Bekelech goes from home to home in this rural town south of Addis Ababa. She is one of the 40,000 health extension workers employed by the Ministry of Health to promote good health practices. During the coronavirus crisis, she's in charge of explaining how people can help prevent the spread of the virus.
Our presence has a lot of benefits. The homes we go to don't always have a television. They don't always have a radio. By going home to home, we are creating awareness. We explain how the disease is transmitted and what the precautionary measures are.
There have not yet been any recorded cases of coronavirus here in Gunchire, but authorities are worried about the future spread of the virus to this area. Meanwhile, it's getting increasingly difficult to get supplies to the area.
In our area, there is a problem of access to transportation. The medical supplies for the hospital are not sufficiently available. Materials for personal hygiene are needed. We are also seeing a serious problem for food supply.
It's been made mandatory to wear masks in some markets, but getting people to stick to social distancing has proven difficult. To reduce social contact but still give people a chance to stock up on essentials, the social enterprise Kidame Mart sells soaps, laundry detergent, and even vegetable stock door to door. The business employs 2,000 women throughout the country and services about 1 million customers.
ማግኘቱ በጣም ጥቅም አለው ለምን ጊዜም አልጨርስም አሁን ያው ራሳችሁን ጠብቃችሁ ቤት ቁጭ ብላችሁ ከበሽታው እንከላከላለን ይሄ ሱቅ 12 ብር ነው እሷ 10 ብር ነው የምትሰጠን
But many Ethiopians can't afford to buy these products and poverty has been deepened by the pandemic. Those struggling to hold on fear things could get worse. The country has recently recorded a spike in the number of new cases.
Well, that's it for In Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.